So I did a poll on Twitter, and you guys voted, well, some of you guys, voted for me to do an art tutorial. So to start off with, I know this isn't where normal people start, but I'm going to start with shading. So right here I have two little Jacobs. He's the main character of the children's book I'm illustrating, well, illustrated, called Jacob Jackson the Watermelon Tree. And so this one here is going to be the good shading Jacob, and this one here is going to be the bad shading Jacob. I don't know why one's a frowny face and one's a star, but whatever. Okay, so the first shading mistake I see is just plainly not doing it at all. So a lot of beginning artists just decide to just not do shading because they don't think they need it. And while the flat colors here look really good, like, I mean, it doesn't look bad or anything, it would look so much better with shading. So even just a little bit, it gives it depth and just generally makes it look better. The second thing I see a lot of people shading without a clear source of light. So I had to help a girl in math class with this the other day. Really weird place to help someone with art, but you know. And the best and easiest place to start off with when it comes to learning how to shade is starting with a light source that's like right here. So I like to imagine like a little sun, except for that doesn't look like a sun, that looks more like a spotlight, but whatever. And so if you have to imagine if the sun was right here, then where would the light be cast? So the light would be like right here and right here, which means the shading would be right there. So it just looks like I'm just butchering this drawing. So you would have to shade in this sort of area and over here, as well as like other areas. And it just takes a lot of practice to get down those lighting sources. And looking at references helps a ton, as well as drawing from life, which is something I would recommend anyways. But, so if we were to do that, we would be shading like right here. Except for this is super sloppy. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I can't even get myself to do that. Shading like right here. Oh my god, I cannot. The pressure of being watched, even though I'm just in an empty room, but whatever. And then, let's say over here. Why am I using the brush size this big? What is wrong with me? I need to control myself today. But you get the point. So it's, or hopefully you get the point. So it's in these kind of areas. I mean, like, that's horrible. Like, oh, wow, I didn't even do anything. But what happens a lot is people will just shade, like, down here, and then they'll just shade all over the place. Or they just stop there. Like, they do a next shade, and then they're just like, okay, that's enough. And they'll shade, like, in this area. Or, oops, I just realized my mouse isn't on. In this area here, or like over, just all over the place. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. And I see it all the time, and whoo, it bugs me. But the next thing I see a lot, all the time with beginning artists is shading with black. So what they do is they'll turn this layer here to, what am I doing? To multiply. They'll lower the opacity, and then they just go straight to black, and they shade with that. So they'll be like this, and while on brown that like looks kind of okay, it ends up looking so dingy, like the person just crawled out of like a dumpster, and it feels so bad because it's all the time. I see it a lot, and I just want to make it so much easier for them. When you shade, you can't use black on a low opacity because that's just not how shading works. When you look at something in real life, it's not just black, it's just a richer version of the original color. So if I was to shade for his sweater, I would select the sweater color, go over to my color wheel here, draw it down to a lower or to a higher saturation, and then move it closer towards the cooler tones. And when you do that, you get a color that actually makes the drawing more rich and still shades. So like if I was this is especially applicable for certain colors. Because, like, let's say we have a yellow. We have a bright yellow. Except for I would never use a yellow this bright. Oops. We have a bright yellow here. And then we want to shade that yellow. If we were to shade the yellow with black on a low opacity, it would look like that. And it looks really dingy. Just ew. But if we were to just keep the opacity all the way up and drag it over here, now we have a nice color. It's a lot less ew. See, like, that's really bad. But I see people do this all the time, and it's just, it hurts my heart. It hurts my poor heart. Not the third thing, I just did the third thing. The other thing I see people do wrong is they use a airbrush tool to shade, and that's it. And while airbrush can be good when used correctly, a lot of the times people, well, not only do they use an airbrush, but they also do the black thing. So they'll use a black low opacity airbrush and just go like this. And oh no, that just adds to like the ickiness. So, oh god, please don't do that. If you're gonna shade, there's two main techniques that people use. So a lot of more cartoony people do a thing called cell shading. So they'll do the right color and they'll just do lines like this where they know the shading's supposed to go. So, oh my god, this is so crappy. I'm so sorry. But they'll do like kind of like that, where it's like a full line. And when you do it across the whole thing, it looks really good and really clean. But I don't like to do that. I do more of what's called a gradient shading, except for I don't quite do a gradient shading, where I like to paint and like blend my colors. So I usually start with a cell shading like this, and then I'll go back through and just soften the edges a bit, and that gives me more control, and it's a lot more forgiving as like a shading tool, because if you do cell shading, you have to get it right, or else it kind of looks really weird. But, you know, this type of shading adds more texture, and I don't know, just makes it feel more like a painting, in my opinion. But, like I said, it's up to you. And then another thing is a lot of people will do, I just realized I did the good stuff on the bad one and just left the, this is a mess. This here is just, no. I'm so sorry. But a lot of people will do the shading, like the whole shazam, do the entire shading, and it looks really good and they did a good job, and then they'll just completely forget to do the highlights, or not, maybe not forget, but just decide not to do it. And again, it's kind of like not doing the shading at all. When you don't do the highlights, it just takes away a whole level of depth, and it also makes it look like your character's not, or whatever you're shading is not in the environment or the background that it's in. So like the first thing I do to start with highlighting, and now I'm gonna try not to elaborate too much on this segment because I'm not the best at highlighting myself. So I like to add little highlights as a start, because when I do that, it looks good with the other stuff I do. So why is my opacity still low? Oh god, now that looks, nope, okay, keeping it low. I also like to, this is just my technique for eyes. I like how everybody has a different technique for what they do for eyes, which is really cool. That's why art's cool, is everybody does different things. But I like to have just a little darker version of the eye color as the pupil, which I don't even know why I do that. I don't even remember where it came from, but that's what I do. And then for a highlight, this is the only time I use an airbrush, because I do not like to use airbrushes. They're not very, not stable. I can't think of the word right now. But I just don't like them. So I like to start off with just a lighter color, and then go slowly lighter and closer to the bottom. I don't even know if I'll keep on doing this forever, but I don't know. I like it now. Just kind of like makes my drawings look cleaner. But so like look at the eyes difference. Like these eyes over here just glow and look very, very deep, Hashtag deep. And these ones, the ones over here are very flat. So it's just a matter of finishing off your drawing. So, and it goes along with knowing where your light source is at. So if the light source is back here, then the light is going to be hitting back here. So for this drawing, if I was to do highlights on it, but I'm barely doing anything, this is garbage, it would be back here. So, yeah, that's how you do that. Or you don't, because I'm not very good at this point. I'm still learning. So, yeah, like I said earlier, I'm still learning how to do all this. So really just take my advice with a grain of salt, because I'm not the best person to be learning from yet, but I hopefully will be. So I'm going to keep on trying to do these in the future, and if you like them and possibly would like to see more, give me a like and put it in the comments, or like another tutorial or video suggestion, whatever. I'm reading all the comments right now because barely anyone's watching. So yeah, thank you! Bye-bye. That was way corny.